What's up everyone? Got a new video for you today. So it's Eric Reed, brilliant musician, gospel and jazz background. He helped make the music for Life, the film with Eddie Murphy, and many other things that I'm sure I'm missing. And we've got Ralph Moore, saxophonist, Andreas, Svendsen and Matthias Petri. So yeah, first you'll see the performance, then it'll go directly to the interview. Thanks a lot guys, enjoy, and please subscribe.
So first things first, why don't you introduce yourselves?
My name is Eric. You just want name and rank and file number?
Yeah, exactly. Social security number.
I'm Eric Reed.
I'm Ralph Moore.
Hi, I'm Andreas Svendsen.
And I'm Matthias Petri.
What's up, guys?
How you doing?
So what was the first thing that inspired you to get into music, or you looked at someone and thought, that's what I want to do? You know?
My father was a gospel singer, and that's what got me into music. I was, born with musical whatevers, but having to learn how to play the instrument, you get taught that private instruction. But my father always took me to rehearsals for his group, and I was always surrounded by music. My brother played guitar, and music was very much a part of my everyday life. It was in school, it was in church, always played in the house, always played in the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So I think I was just born to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I was sort of around a family in show business, and I gravitated to music as opposed to dance or something. I got turned on by the music that was being played, likewise in the house, and I saw a saxophone one day, and that was on sight. That was the sexiest thing I had seen in my life. And okay.
I grew up in a house with two parents who were classical percussion players, so there were drums around the house from the beginning, and I just kind of started fooling around playing drums when I was, 3, 4 years old, and I kind of just kept playing, and it worked out, at least for now.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same story for me. I grew up in a family where my parents were very much into music, and my dad wanted to be a clarinet player, but he decided not to, and then he just passed on his interest for music to me. He was really, he was giving me a lot of records and stuff to check out, classical music and jazz music and stuff like that. So yeah.
Was the biggest misconception you had about the music industry before you got into it compared to now?
I had no misconceptions. As I said, my family was kind of into show business.
Yeah.
They told me I was going to starve to death at the beginning.
And they were right.
Yeah, that's important to know that. Yeah.
But my mom told me it's important to have something in your life that gives it meaning, that you love, and so go ahead and starve to death and enjoy your life.
Exactly.
If that's what you want to do.
Yeah, that's what you want to do.
I think the misconceptions mostly come from the lay people.
Yeah.
Musicians, most of us never have misconceptions about the music because all we want to do is play. We don't really care, most of us, about counting money, how we're going to get to where we're going to get. Just tell us what time and we'll show up and we're just ready to do it. I think the misconceptions might come somewhere along the way. For instance, you might experience a modicum of success and then you figure, well, that's just the way it'll be, for the rest of your life. But even in pop music, nobody's on top forever. Even though Stevie Wonder is the great Stevie Wonder, he always will be, but he's not as in vogue as he once was, in the 60s, 70s, 80s. He's still hailed and regarded as a genius, as a motivational force in music and in the world. But I think we're moving away from the generations that really knew and loved his music intimately, But you have very few Elvis Presleys or Michael Jacksons in this world where their music and their stardom kind of transcends their death. That's a very, very, rare situation. So again, any misconceptions about the music come from the audience.
Yeah. What's the biggest challenge you've faced in your career so far?
I think you should answer that, Papa.
Biggest challenge? Thinking in terms of getting a family stuff?
All around, yeah.
Whatever, if that's what it means for you.
Yeah, whatever the biggest challenge you face, whether it's...
However you want to answer.
I have to think about that. I don't really have an answer for that right now.
I'd like to say that some of us are a little older, and some of us are just a lot younger and are just sort of getting in and perhaps haven't faced the biggest challenge.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
The biggest challenge for me was being disillusioned about what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
When I first started out, I got connected with a lot of musicians who kind of put me in this box and said, do this and then go in that direction. I had a bunch of other things that I wanted to do, but I was so young and impressionable that I was allowed to be, manipulated, almost brainwashed into going in this direction to achieve a certain, ulterior motive. So the disillusionment, once I finally, woke up and smelled the coffee, I was like, man, I could have been doing that all those years ago. So the biggest challenge I find is finding an identity or creating an identity and maintaining that path, having a real sense of purpose about what it is you're doing and what you're supposed to be doing, and not let somebody come along and say you're supposed to be doing this when, that doesn't really fit you. That I find to be a challenge. Other musicians will find challenges having families and traveling the road. Traveling the road is very, very difficult, even for people without children and spouses. But the more you're away from home, you got to find a way to keep the stability and make sure that everything is going. You're not seeing your kids or your spouse. You're not at home a whole lot. You're going from country to country, changing climates, changing money, changing languages, time zones, all that kind of stuff. We love doing it. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to do that, but for now, it's kind of working.
Yeah. So, is there any modern, artists or anything that's recently been brought to music that you think is great and you're very positive about? Because most people always talk negative about new music. So I wonder if there's anyone recent who you thought is great, not necessarily in your style, but
I recently came across a singer from New Orleans named, or keyboard player and singer PJ Morton, who released an album this year called Gumbo, and that's just like a soul kind of thing. I think he was the keyboard player for Maroon 5 for a bunch of years in Los Angeles, and that album he just released just got me hooked. I listened to that like non-stop for 2 months, and I don't know why, it's just great music.
That's
so,
why.
Yeah.
Well, it's great because it is.
Yeah.
There are always going to be great young musicians. Every generation, every decade, we always get some crop of musicians who come out here and they make some noise on the scene. So I'm always hearing young musicians that I'm impressed by. When I was in my 20s, I was that musician. And now 20-something years later, I'm hearing wonderful musicians like Isaiah Thompson, who was just here at the club the week before us. And I heard him when he was still in high school. A lot of the young musicians that I wind up meeting are either in high school or matriculating in college. I met Matthias and Andreas. They were going to the Manhattan School. And that's really, Ralph and I are always talking about this, the continuum of the music and how it continues to be perpetrated and propelled by older musicians who are more seasoned and more experienced, working with younger musicians who need, hey, pull us along, let us know what's going on. Let's play this music together and we'll, learn from each other and vibe off of each other. And the great thing about it is, you're always going to hear something different than what you heard or what you came up listening to. Jameson Ross is a singer and drummer who's playing now. Fantastic talent. He's actually featured on my latest CD that's coming out in a short while called A Light in Darkness. Ralph and I, we just made a record for his, under his leadership, his first one in like 20-something years. And like I said, once the ice thawed, we found him with the saxophone and he was ready to go. But he had Willie Jones on drums and Gerald Cannon on bass. Now we're all kind of so-called veterans. We're all in our 40s, 50s, 60s. But it was great to be able to, play with musicians that are your peer group and a generation before, but also a generation or two behind you. Because we speak the same language. We all have different dialects. But these guys are from Denmark. Denmark's always been hip. We're from, Ralph's from the UK and California. I'm from Los Angeles, Philadelphia. So the music knows no bounds. And that's any kind of music. People just love music. And if you're able to play and communicate in a way that reaches people and touches their souls and their hearts, then it doesn't really matter what kind of music it is, as long as it's being done well.
So this is going to be edited, so...
Yeah, of course, it's going to be, yeah.
I just want to mess with Eric.
I'm going to leave that bit in then.
The music is always being perpetuated instead of, what was the other word?
Propelled.
Yeah. Who's perpetuating? I ain't perpetuating nothing.
That's not phony.
Okay.
To perpetuate something means to act out.
Yeah, I know. I know. It was nice before I but
But that was a great segue.
I tell you, without going too far back, I still really love the Weather Report conception. I love that, man. And I think there's so much potential in that area.
Snarky Puppy.
Snarky
Yeah.
Puppy.
Modern day Weather Report.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, so.
New young artists,
Yeah.
Danish, anybody?
Well, I recently came across a group called Hiatus Coyote, and that was really like an eye opener for me because they did something new and like groovy stuff like funk music. But
Where are they from?
I think they're from Australia.
Hi.
Hiatus
Hiatus.
Coyote, I think I'm pronouncing that right.
See, we need a good band name.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need a band name.
Yeah.
I like Danish soul, but it didn't stick. Anyway.
You want YouTube to suggest you some?
Absolutely.
So you got to say it to the camera. Then.
I never read the comments, but fine, whatever. So yeah.
It's okay. I'll filter through the
Yeah,
bullshit.
Hiatus. Hiatus.
You're a hyenas.
Hiatus Coyote.
Yeah.
What can we expect to hear from your recordings that are coming out? So wait, is it an album or is it?
It's a proper
It's an
album.
album.
Yeah.
So what can we expect to hear
You can
from?
expect to hear originals.
Yeah.
We're
A band of writers.
a band of writers, it seems.
Yeah. And so what was your process? Did you write all together, or did you all come with individual songs, or?
We haven't written together yet. It's
Yeah.
not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Right now we're contributing compositions, each
Yeah.
of us. But it's not a bad idea to.
We kind of arranged some of those compositions as a band also in,
Right.
in the
For
studio,
this ensemble.
and also
Right.
for the gigs we did before the recording.
Yeah.
We were like, okay, let's figure out how we can get this song to work,
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Right now, I guess we are running the gamut from sort of what some people would call straight ahead on into some Latin tinged things, and maybe some more stuff out of the monkish. Can I use Harvey Nichols?
Sure.
A little
All
bit
of our
more
influence.
intense. All of those influences.
Everything we listen to.
Train,
And
yeah.
what's your individual writing processes? Do you realize how it differs, or is there something some process that you need to go through individually for yourself when writing a song?
I'm sure everybody's got their different ways of doing things. I try to approach it and attack it from every possible angle. Sometimes I'll sit and write at the piano. Sometimes I'll just be in my bedroom writing away from the piano. I find that my compositions come out a little more honestly and more inspired and kind of different when I'm not sitting at the piano. Because when I'm at the piano, my hands just do what they naturally want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm playing through chord changes that I know work. But when I'm, on a plane and I have no access to instruments, I just use my ears and I hear the melody. And I'll have a whole song written before I even add chord changes. I add the chord changes later. Then I discover that they're not the traditional chord changes, the traditional chord progressions and the way things move. I have to force myself to find specific and appropriate chord changes for that melodic line. And I really do prefer to compose that way.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I approach this a lot differently because I'm really new in this composing thing. I guess this is the first time I've composed for like a purpose. I mean, I used to compose in school when I was back there, and that was like my homework and stuff. But this time it's like my goal was to make 11 songs for this group, and I just had to do it. And I usually come up with the chords first, and I'm not a really good piano player, so it's like I have to work on that and stuff, and then I record them and listen back to them, and I kind of sing a melody over those chords, and that's how I come up with the stuff.
And great songs.
Yeah.
Really good songs. I was surprised. I was. I didn't know what to expect. He's a good player. But
Yeah.
not every musician knows how to compose. Songs are great. And we're still waiting for Andreas' compositions, so we'll
Yeah.
add those, later.
So did you have a moment when you realised this is good with all four of you playing together, you know, rather than just a one-off? Because I guess you must have played once together, and then you thought this works. Let's write or something. How did that process happen?
Well, this tour we've been doing has been in the works for a little while. We did a concert in Denmark, and then we played 3 nights at the Mantra, which is a famous jazz club in Copenhagen. Then we did an album, 2 days in the studio, and now we've got 5 days here. So, you know, this is developing as we speak, and you know the various things that we have to say and input are now we know specifically what kind of situation this is, and we can compose going forward. But it's a good, strong, solid situation, I think.
Yeah.
And it started 2 years ago. Matthias, tell the story about how this all came about.
Yeah, it all started at Montreal. Actually, there was a guy at Montreal that asked me and Andreas to find an artist that we wanted to feature on a couple of shows in Copenhagen, and we went to see these 2 guys actually at the Village Vanguard. So so we discussed it a few days later what we were going to bring, and we thought, well, I said hello to Eric at the Village Vanguard, and we thought it would be a great idea to hook up with Eric, and so we did, and we did 2 years at Montmartre in a row, and then we decided to add Ralph on this because I've been an admirer of Ralph's for a long time, so I just suggested that, and Eric was on it, so that's how it all came about.
It was very exciting for me.
Because you know, you have varying degrees of existences, not just in the music industries, but specifically in jazz. You know, you've got like, you know, your big huge names that only play concert halls, like, you know, Keith Jarrett or, you know, Matheny or people like that, and then you've got everybody else. There's like really only not a whole lot of room for, you know, musicians to be, you know, on that particular platform. But, you know, by and large, most jazz musicians, the average jazz musician, is out here in the trenches, you know, hitting the clubs, a few concerts here and there, you know, a few European tours, 3-4 weeks or whatever it is. So where I am in my particular place in life, and on this particular chapter, it's important for me to be relevant, you know, and it's nice to know that young musicians would consider me, you know, worthy of still being out here doing this. You know, I'm toiling out here playing with my own groups and playing with Ralph and playing with my peers and things like that. But if you can still matter to the current generation who are kind of, you know, the world is geared more towards them, if you can make that connection, then that's a beautiful thing. Just to know that you still matter. You know, it's very interesting how this whole thing works.